You'll remember this footage from the polo match when she's over there trying to take the gifts and prizes as though she too had had a victory with her polo pony. And he allowed it. I don't think the Harry of today would have allowed it. Harry of old was all like,
"Oh, you know, Meghan, this is so exciting. I know she didn't really ride, but she was with me in spirit. We were riding together. She was in my heart, you know."
And the Harry today is like,
"Oh, good Lord, here comes the old battle axe. Here she comes, her bony ankles clacking. Oh, she's going to take the microphone, is she? Well, I'm not going to let it happen this time. No, sorry, Bob. It's over now, isn't it?"
we have to cover our Meghan news. Apparently, she was here in the great city of Washington, D.C. I saw on her reels, I was like, she was on my territory. But you know, the air around here is pretty spiritually dark, so it was hard to sense a seismic shift when the she-devil showed up because it's already pretty bleak. But she came and she was doing an interview with Fortune magazine. You know, another time for her to use all her stupid buzzwords. Okay. I listened to the whole thing and it was mind-numbing. But we'll get to that. Because the first thing we have to talk about is the fact that she seems to be everywhere all at the same time. She's gone through one of her manic episodes where she's just bleeping everywhere. And she does this thing where you won't see her for a while, and then suddenly she's just doing interviews and showing up at random places. And she does this from time to time, where she just can't just be a sort of steady, slow drip. It's always got to be a bucket of cold ice water on your head. Well, she was doing her cold ice water rounds. And she, of course, had been to Fashion Week in Paris. And as has come out, everyone is now saying, oh, well, you know, Meghan invited herself. And there'd been some speculation that she had legitimately been asked to the show. But no, she asked herself. Now, this is where I feel like we tend to make mountains out of molehills. Because according to the new director of Balenciaga, she did technically invite herself. But they've been friends for a while. He said they've been texting each other for several years now. And she texted him and said, I'd love to come to your new show. And then he sends her clothes to wear to the new show. And I don't think that's the same thing as acting as though she jumped out of the dark into the face of someone who didn't even know her to demand admittance to his fashion show. But that's the way everybody tells the tale, and I just don't think that that is technically true. Technically, she invited herself when she said, I would like to come, and technically he allowed it when he sent her clothes from the new fashion line. So it seems like unnecessary shade being thrown at Meghan when, as I've said many's the time, there's plenty to say about Meghan. You know, we don't have to pick apart the carcass of her life like a couple of vultures. The things I'd love to talk about rather than whether she was or was not invited to Balenciaga show through formal channels, is that she and Harry were set to receive an award in New York City about all the work they've done for the mentally ill. And the award was given because Harry and Meghan are always crying and wiping their eyes about how it's just so unfair because people are mean online and stuff, and like, we can't let this happen to our kids. Well, then don't let them have a phone. I mean, pure and simple. There we go. But anyway, this completely insignificant award was given to Harry and Meghan. And you know, what I have to say is, here in America, we have a real mental health crisis going on. But if Harry and Meghan are the poster children for our salvation, I believe all is lost. It's so inexplicable that the two of them would receive this award when anybody who's plugged in at all to the conversation around them could give 10 to 15 reasons why they're the last people who should have received this award. But these elite awards that are handed out so that the celebrities can scratch each other's backs have long since been useless and really carry no weight or worth. We've known that. But it seems like the people who are giving out the award would at least try to legitimize what they're doing. We know it's all fraud and fiction and foolishness. But it just seems to me like the people giving out the award wouldn't want to admit that so obviously. It's almost like they know it's stupid and they're going to let you know they know it. So they pick the least qualified couple, the one who would get the most backlash upon receiving it. So they could be like, yeah, I know. We weren't into this either. This is like the equivalency of when the astronauts came back from the moon landing and their demeanor was as follows.
What is the meaning of this to all of us?
You want to try that?
After you.
And it's sort of like, if you had just come back from the moon landing, can you imagine being less enthusiastic? It's like they're trying to tell us something. Well, that's how I feel with Meghan and Harry receiving this award. It's almost like the people giving out the award are trying to tell us something. Well, we were all compelled to make commentary on the illegitimacy of the award. The thing that really caught our attention was how unhappy Harry was. Now, we've been seeing Harry completely underwhelmed by Meghan's presence. That is a shift from his previous behavior, where he wanted us all to sing, all hail King Meghan. He all but wanted us to fall to our faces in front of her. He just couldn't understand why the whole world didn't want to lay down at her feet and praise and worship her. Well, it seems that he's kind of catching on that she's the literal worst. And the last couple of times we've seen him, he is fighting the urge to backhand her away from himself. We saw when he was at Kevin Costner's charity event where Meghan was supposed to be in the background. Like, for one blessed day, could your husband just sort of do his thing? Because really, the fight about online spaces and the bullying is like his pet project in her name. Because she's the one getting bullied more than he is. And it seems like he wants to fight that to defend her honor. But it's kind of his thing. She's busy making jams and he's over there pretending he can change the world. One boring conversation after another. But he was giving out this award at this event, or receiving the award. I can't remember what it was, but it was his moment. And as he's over there trying to say his clumsy words, let him gather his thoughts. He's only got a couple of brain cells with which to produce this next few statements. Let him just not be distracted. Meghan comes sliding out of the background where she'd been waiting back like a spider. And she shows up behind him as though she's creeping up to stab him. And he turns around just in time and is almost visibly shocked to see her there. How can he be? All she's ever tried to do is infiltrate his spaces and take over where he was supposed to be in charge. But she attempts to kind of take the microphone and kind of join in with him on whatever it is he's doing. It's very weird because nobody gave her permission to be there in the first place. So it's like, if you were supposed to be here, you would have been called up together. Why is it so hard for you to stay back in the wings? Why is it so hard for you to, for once, just play the supportive role? He's done that for you over and over, as you've said many times in interviews, that Harry's just there to support everything you do. So you can't just let him do his thing. No. She keeps trying to take the microphone, keeps trying to insert herself, and he, pretty much stonewalls her, and she skulks back to backstage in one of the most awkward exchanges of all time. Now, you'll recall old Harry would have allowed her to stay, because you'll remember this footage from the polo match when she's over there trying to take the gifts and prizes as though she too had had a victory with her polo pony. And he allowed it. I don't think the Harry of today would have allowed it. Harry of old was all like,
"Oh, Meghan, this is so exciting. I know she didn't really ride, but she was with me in spirit. We were riding together. She was in my heart,
And the Harry today is like,
"Oh, good Lord, here comes the old battle axe. Here she comes, her bony ankles clacking. God, she's going to take the microphone, is she? Well, I'm not going to let it happen this time. No, sorry, Bob. It's over now, isn't it?"
So I'm glad that he seems to be growing some kind of a backbone, but I think the thing that's bothersome to me is he's swinging from one extreme to the other. It's like, before it was, I'm going to basically wear her like a fur coat. I just love her so much. I want her draped all over me. And now it's kind of awkward how he keeps brushing her off. And it's like, well, you've got to decide what you want, man. This is kind of embarrassing that you won't take her hand, or you'll fight her on it. She'll try to take his hand and he'll be grabbing for anything to not get her hand, but she eventually wins. It never looks happy. He's always very unsmiling. He's just constantly appearing to be in distress in public. But it makes it very awkward. If you're going to publicly look so miserable, then privately do something about it. But don't come out being all mopey and "She won't get off of me. She literally will not stop clutching at me. Get off!" But it's do something about it then. What made it even weirder was that publicly he seemed so uncomfortable. He seemed distressed. He seemed frustrated. He seemed unhappy. But then Meghan posted a video of them getting ready for the award, and he's talking to her and they're laughing about something, and it seems like a genuine moment. Now, she doesn't seem genuine because she's always fake cackling, but he seemed like really at ease with her in a way that we never saw him show in public, and it made his weird coldness towards her in public seem even stranger. Like if I were her, I would feel like, how come when we're together and it's just the two of us, we seem to get on, but then when we go in public, you seem like you're sort of brushing me off and you're kind of cold and you can't be bothered to like make a smile. Now, a person could interpret this and just say he's incredibly awkward. Like, he just feels socially awkward about things and he doesn't really know what to say, and he's not a super well-spoken person, and he tends to sort of stutter and stumble over himself when given the opportunity to speak. So it could be that he isn't opposed to Meghan. It's that he's opposed to the situation. And because he's been criticized so much for always holding her hand, and it sort of contributes to his general weakness, he's not wanting to appear weak, so he doesn't want to look like he's clutching onto her as a security blanket. So there's a part of me that is disposed to saying, I don't think that everyone's interpretation of him as, finally having enough of it and wanting to break up with her is necessarily accurate. When we see him with her in a personal setting, he seems very relaxed and like genuinely comfortable with her. I think he just doesn't like being in public. I think he doesn't know how to react to the criticisms of the public. And I think that's what he doesn't like. Meghan was never somebody that was worthy of his attention. His family could see it immediately. It's not like Meghan was an amazing person before and now she's turned into an ice queen. She was always an argumentative person. She was always looking for it to be her own way. And back in the day, Harry would be like, what Meghan wants, Meghan's gonna get. I don't necessarily believe he stopped saying that or believing it. I think he just doesn't want to be publicly criticized. And he doesn't know how to exist with Meghan in public without receiving criticism. I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing his insecurity, not his draining love and affection. We want him to wake up and realize that she's crazy, but he bought into the delusion a long time ago. And I believe that she's very good at manipulating people. We saw how she tries to manipulate facts with her conversation that she had at Fortune magazine. It was one of the most boring conversations I've ever heard. And Meghan tends to do that. It's like, here we have a person who has an incredibly interesting life, who truly, if she decided to tell us from start to finish what her life was really like, it would be spellbinding. I firmly believe that nobody is boring, if they'll be honest. And if you are bored listening to somebody tell about their life, it's because they aren't telling you the truth. And if she would tell us the truth about her life, it would be spellbinding. Absolutely spellbinding. Even if you didn't agree with everything that she'd done, it would be very interesting. But she always has these conversations with these business settings, and she likes to consider herself an entrepreneur, which I suppose in some context she is. No one's going to say she doesn't have businesses and that she doesn't try to have business sense. But the problem is that she wants to find herself well established in an area that she is not established in. She's had her as ever business for maybe a year and a half publicly, and yet she wants to have the same standing as other female founders who have been in the space a lot longer. And so she compensates for the lack of time spent in that field with as much jargon as she can pack into 30 seconds. And so she was just saying a lot of things that were just overwhelmingly annoying because she uses all kinds of acronyms and words, buzzwords and all kinds of things because that's what she believes will show that she has experience. But we all are really aware of how shystery and fraudish that is, and so it convinces no one that she knows what she's doing. Specifically because all of her tricks of the trade, like stocking inadequate amounts of jam and dry biscuits and then saying that you sold out in 30 minutes, is a trick that so many people have used. That's not a metric for your success, so you using all the right words and having these sort of shadowy examples of success just isn't going to work for us. We're too smart now, right? But anyway, she gets on to this podcast, back to what I was saying earlier, that she's just very manipulative and will spin facts for whatever audience she thinks will buy it. She said that she has turned off the comments on her social media because she wants to really make a beautiful experience for all of her many, 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 many followers who love her and who are just really encouraging and who love her so much. And there's just some really loud naysayers out there who just are going to ruin that experience for everybody. And so she's turned off the comments because the experience needs to be really beautiful for the people who support her. And there's so many of those people who support her that she wanted to kind of curate their experience so it would just be better for them.
Certain things that I've done just for my own self-preservation, but also that I've applied to the brand and for the people that are incredibly supportive. I know, the question can be around naysayers, but if you really see the groundswell of support that surrounds the brand and me, that's what I feel the most and that's what I appreciate. But by design, I also recognize that a lot of those people aren't going to my page to see negativity. And so not just protecting myself or the people that work with me, but also the supporters. So I don't have the comment section on.
And it's like, that sounds really nice, but we all know that's not true. Now I'm not saying there's no truth to it, because, you don't want to sour the people who really like you. You don't want them to read a whole bunch of terrible things about you and then join the mob against you. So I'm sure that there is absolutely truth to the fact that she didn't want the people who like her to see a bunch of negative things. But I don't think it's because she was afraid that it would discourage them. I think it was because it discourages her and she didn't want to see it, And quite frankly, if I was receiving the backlash so consistently over every single thing I did, I wouldn't really want to have the comments on either. I don't blame her for that, but I don't think she needs to spin it like, I care so much about the people that I love that, I just want to bring them joy, and I care so much about the little details that I didn't want the little detail of negative feedback about something they love to affect their day. Like, that's not true. What she fails to do so dramatically in her public relations is that she has zero ability to be authentic. And if she could authentically own the fact that I am very well aware that people don't like me, and I don't think that it's fair that they say all these negative things about me, but I just didn't want to live with the criticism. So I turned it off. It's my social media. I don't feel like getting screeched at every day when I open my page. It brought me down. And so I just turned it off. That's her prerogative. So say that, And I just truly think that if she would finally start interacting with people in real ways, not the fake real ways that she does with her stupid baby mama dance, that's not relatability. That's not what we want. We don't need to see you dancing like a fool for us to think that you can be relatable. That's so beyond the pale of what most people would do and post on their... She's got no cool. She's got no ability to sit in the middle. It's either crazy baby mama videos or sitting there on a panel using a bunch of terminology nobody understands. What do you have any idea what the middle is like? Anyway. She said a lot of other things in this conversation that were ridiculous. They asked her, do you want to put your products in stores, like a Target or something, just so it's easier for people to access? And I'm thinking, no, she does not. Because how is she going to hide the numbers if she involves a third party? How can she keep doing her little ploy of, we restocked 10x and you wouldn't believe it, but we sold out in 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes. Can you believe it? It's like, Meghan, don't act like the reason that you aren't willing to do a big stock in a big box store is because you want to make sure that this is a bespoke experience. It's not because you want a bespoke experience. It's because you can't have more people looking at the books. You can't have more people knowing how much people don't want this. Imagine how if she stocked a Target, her stuff would sit on the shelves. How much do you not want to buy the shortbread cookie mix if you saw it in person? You know what I mean? There's something about putting your hands on goods. And she's like, I love for people to have that tactile experience. That is so important. We definitely want to do a retail. We just really wanted it to be a bespoke experience. How much... Or would you be unconvinced to buy that tiny little jar of jam if you could actually hold it and see how little you're actually getting for your $14? The spread, sorry, not the jam. How much would you not want that sorry tin of teas? Especially when you could just reach right over down the aisle and get the same exact tea from the label that made her tea, and for cheaper. I mean, she can't afford for people to touch these products, as much as she likes the tactile and the granular. Other thing that I thought was just really egregious about this entire conversation, apart from the fact that it was so boring, I felt like I had to crawl up out of the grave when we were done. I truly felt that I had been lulled not just to sleep, but into a coma and then into death. But one of the things she said during the conversation, before my mind had become truly numb and I stopped listening, was that she claimed that she had done calligraphy back in her poor college days, back when she was a struggling actress. She'd done calligraphy for celebrity weddings and hotels. And that when she was doing this calligraphy, she didn't want the natural oils of her hand to get on the paper. And so to combat that, she wore a tube sock on her arm so that a tube sock on her hand so that she wouldn't get the natural oils of her hand onto the paper. The way I call bullshit on that. Look, I'm not saying that getting a protective glove isn't a bad idea. But I am telling you that little Miss Nobody with her, little markers that she likes to call calligraphy pens, they are not. That fool tries to tell me that she's going to be doing calligraphy for a celebrity wedding with a tube sock on her hand. The precision necessary to get calligraphy done right could not be done with a tube sock on your hand. It's like, you just are making up bullshit at this point. Also, the time that it would take to build up the clientele worthy of then finally getting celebrity weddings and hotels, it would be years in the making before you could get a celebrity wedding. She wasn't doing it long enough, and it's not good enough. It isn't calligraphy. It is not calligraphy. I've done a couple of weddings in my time, okay? I did 2 weddings when I was in college. It takes a really long time. And I'm just telling you, she wasn't doing multiple celebrity weddings and multiple things for hotels and doing her interviews and working all her side jobs, with her teaching advanced gift wrapping at Paper Source. She got in all of the stories into this horrific interview. She told us all about her odd jobs. She gave us all the same information about what it is to have been a female founder. She doesn't have any new stories about any of her experiences. The only thing we didn't hear was about how when she was 11, she wrote to the company about the dish soap. That's the only story we didn't hear. And everything else was a repeat. She didn't tell us anything new, with the exception of doing calligraphy for celebrity clients and hotels. You did not. It's not possible. It's not possible, especially when you're so janky that you wear a tube sock on your hand. That little element to the story, that little twist to the story was the very thing that was the tell. How do you have the dexterity to do calligraphy with a tube sock on your hand? Celebrity weddings plus tube sock? No celebrity who can afford to have all of their invitations done by a calligrapher is going to pay somebody who doesn't have the wherewithal to buy an actual glove and uses a tube sock on her hand.